Well, we have some email questions that some of you have sent in, and we'd like to answer those that we can. Pat, this first one is from Steve, who wants to know, did Jesus celebrate Hanukkah?
He didn't tell me he did. I'm sorry.
You're taking away from the credibility of this portion of the show.
Well, I doubt very seriously. If it's not in the Bible, I don't believe it. But I doubt very seriously if there was any celebration of something called Hanukkah.
You think the observance of that came later, maybe?
I think so. I think it. From what I researched, people were saying it's something having to do from the Maccabees on. But I think that they stuck pretty close to the old traditions, and I don't think that was one of them.
Okay, this is Alice, who says, we know Jesus was born in Bethlehem, but where did God come from?
The Bible doesn't tell us. From everlasting unto everlasting, thou art God. There was never a time when he didn't exist. And this is one of the great mysteries that you're asking, where did God come from? In the Middle Ages, they tried to come up with something they called an uncaused cause, and then they'd go back and they'd say, well, this was cause and this was cause, and then you come to the uncaused cause, which, of course, doesn't tell you anything. And we don't know, except that God told us whatever was needed to live our lives and to find the salvation, the happiness in our lives, and the future life that he had for us. But he did not explain his own existence except to say, from everlasting unto everlasting, thou art God. Mm-hmm. There was never a time when he did not exist. And that's all I know, because that's all the Bible says.
Well, that's a good way to lead into this next question. This is from Barry, who says, I get so disgusted when someone tells me I should believe something simply, quote, because the Bible tells me so. That's nice for children, along with Santa and the Tooth Fairy. But when I'm truly seeking an explanation, it's patronizing and insulting to tell me to believe in something just because an old book includes that info. Why should I believe in the Bible any more than any other holy book?
I wrote a book called The Secret Kingdom. And in that secret kingdom were certain laws that I had brought forth or deduced from what was written there. And was my theory. God is almighty, and he is the one who sets the rules for all of nature. And if Jesus is God, whatever he said was as valid as the law of gravity in terms of moral and ethical teachings. Once I took that premise and began to look at his words, I found principles that applied to people in every society, in every level of life, and every sociological level. They're absolutely as true as the law of gravity or other laws. And so I set forth the law of use and the law of responsibility and so forth. And they've resonated in people's hearts. The Bible is a self-validating piece of literature. It validates itself, and you read it, you begin to see truths that register in your heart because they are true, and they work for you. So to say this is an old, dusty book, you don't really know what you're talking about because you haven't studied the Bible. You haven't understood what a blessed thing it is. It's also an extraordinarily accurate book of history. Yeah. But at the same time, it is not a science textbook. It never was intended as a science textbook. It is a book that tells us how to find salvation in God and how to live a life that will be pleasing to him. That's what it tells us. And if we follow those principles, we'll find that we are blessed beyond measure.
I think that when you talk about it being a self-validating book, the prophecies that have
many of them
been a part of it over the years that then fulfilled are a tremendous sign.
The chances are in the billions to one of something being fulfilled in that same fashion as it took place in Jesus. You're exactly right. All right.
This is Mark, who says, I've noticed a trend. Young women wearing miniskirts in church. Not only is it tacky, it makes many men stumble. I'm an ex-porn addict, and now that I'm a Christian, I'm doing everything I can to lead a clean life. The world gives us enough temptations, so why must we deal with it within the church walls? Shouldn't the pastors help with this issue?
They should, but they're a little afraid of being labeled as fundamentalist and obscurantist or whatever term wants to be applied to them. We used to spend a lot of time talking about modesty, and today, good grief, they had a whole special on CBS on Victoria's Secrets. All those naked models are semi-naked. I mean, there's a whole, with Justin Bieber and people, you know, singing. You look at the advertisements, you look at TV, you look at this, that, and the other, and there's so much display of human flesh that would be tempting to somebody who has, just normally, but a sex addict, it would be tremendously tempting. I think the church people need to dress modestly. The Bible said they should adorn themselves modestly. But I think pastors feel like they'll drive young people away if they get too strict in this regard. I don't know what to say, except that...
maybe speak to your pastor about it.
Well, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. I think it needs to be given with grace.
Yeah.
And say, this is the higher ideal. I want you to be beautiful, and here's the way to be beautiful. And you're not beautiful by being cheap and tacky, and you know, all adorned with piercings and you know, chewing bubble gum in church. Okay, what else?
Don't look under the pew.
Oh, heavens help us, no.
We thank you for your email questions. That's all the time we have for today.